Welcome to NFL Nexus. Today, we are diving deep into the Washington Commanders, who are in the middle of one of the most aggressive roster resets you're going to see. Seriously, this isn't just shuffling some players around. We're talking a full-scale foundation-up rebuild, and it's all being orchestrated by a new front office with a very clear, very bold vision. Okay, let's get right into the blueprint.
From the outside looking in, with all the players coming and going, it might look a little bit like chaos, but trust me, this is the calculated, meticulous work of the new general manager, Adam Peters. He's not just filling out a 90-man roster, he is handpicking guys with specific traits for his new head coach, Dan Quinn. We're talking about tenacity, versatility, and guys who are perfect fits for their aggressive schemes. Every single move, every departure, every signing, every dollar. It's all a piece of a much, much bigger puzzle. And in this explainer, we're going to put that puzzle together for you, piece by piece, to show you the whole picture.
So here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to look at some of the tough goodbyes, the strategic moves that had to happen to clear the way for this new era. Then we'll get into the big money deals, the major investments being made to build a defense in Dan Quinn's image. After that, we're going to spotlight one signing that experts are already calling the potential steal of the entire offseason. And finally, we'll look ahead at the remaining puzzle pieces and what moves could still be on the horizon for Washington.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Strategic Exits, New Beginnings. Before any new regime can really start building its team, it often has to do some demolition first. To install a new culture and to really execute a new vision, you first have to make room. And that means parting ways with players who, for whatever reason, just don't fit the new blueprint.
And one of the very first notable exits was cornerback Noah Igbinoghene. Now, he wasn't a superstar, but he was a really versatile and valuable piece for the old Commanders regime. He contributed in the secondary and was a key guy on special teams. His departure really sends a message that this new front office is willing to move on from even useful players if they aren't a perfect, long-term fit for what they're trying to build.
Igbinoghene was way more than just a backup. Due to injuries, he was forced into 10 stars just 2 seasons ago, and he was still a key rotational guy last year. But you could argue his biggest impact was on special teams. His speed was a legitimate weapon, and that's a quality that's surprisingly hard and expensive to replace. So him leaving for a 1-year deal with Seattle creates a real, tangible hole in both their defensive depth and that special teams athleticism, something Adam Peters had to immediately start thinking about how to fix.
This quote from Igbinoghene himself really says it all. He appreciated his time in Washington, he's thankful for it, but the pull of joining the reigning Super Bowl champions, that was just too strong. And it really highlights the uphill battle for a team like Washington that's rebuilding. You're not just competing with money, you're competing against the powerful allure of a winning culture. And that's a recruiting tool the Commanders are hoping to build for themselves very, very soon.
Now, the other key departure was completely different. We're talking about quarterback Josh Johnson. At 39 years old, his primary value wasn't really about what he did on the field anymore. It was about his mind. He was that veteran mentor, basically a player coach in the quarterback room, providing just priceless perspective for a young guy like Jaden Daniels and even for another vet like Marcus Mariota. His move to Cincinnati creates an immediate need, not just for a third quarterback, but for that specific coach-in-the-room presence. Now the Commanders have to figure out if they want to find a new young QB to develop or bring in another seasoned vet to fill that exact mentorship void.
So let's see how this all builds into Section 2, bolstering the defensive front. With cap space cleared and roster spots now open, Adam Peters immediately went on the attack in free agency, and his philosophy became crystal clear right away. He wants to build a dominant, aggressive defense from the inside out, starting right where all great units do, in the trenches.
And this brings up the question every single GM has to face. How do you build a truly dominant defense? Do you have to hit on every draft pick? Do you have to break the bank for every big-name free agent? Is it all just about the scheme? Well, for the Commanders, under a defensive mastermind like Dan Quinn, the answer starts with one fundamental, non-negotiable principle.
The answer is actually pretty simple and definitive. Before you do anything else, you identify and you lock down your cornerstone. You find that one guy who embodies everything you want. The talent, the work ethic, the leadership, and you make a massive statement by committing to him for the long haul.
And that statement came in the form of this number right here, $100 million. That is the massive extension Washington just gave to defensive end Odafe Oweh. And look, this isn't just a contract, it's an anointment. This move tells the entire league that Oweh is the engine of Dan Quinn's new defense. He's being paid to be that primary Leo rusher, the guy off the edge whose disruptive force makes the whole scheme work. But locking down Oweh was just step one.
They immediately went to work surrounding him with reinforcements. To keep offenses from just double-teaming OA all day, they brought in a powerful, proven veteran in Charles Omenihi. And to solve that hole in the secondary that Igbenogany left behind, they made a really targeted investment, signing cornerback Amik Robertson to a pretty significant $15 million deal. This wasn't just a patch, this was a move for a starting caliber corner whose physical style is a much better fit for the press man schemes that Dan Quinn absolutely loves to run.
Okay, now let's get to Section 3, because this is the move that has everybody talking. It's our deep dive on what might just be the biggest steal of the entire offseason, the signing of edge rusher Clavon Chason. While that OA extension was the big money headline, this signing really shows the other side of Adam Peters' strategy, finding those high upside, maybe undervalued guys that the rest of the league might be sleeping on.
To really understand why this is such a potential steal, you gotta look at Chason's wild journey. I mean, he was a first-round pick by the Jaguars back in 2020, but he was seen as a really raw athlete. All the tools in the world, but not a lot of polish. He actually hit rock bottom in 2024, getting released by the Panthers and ending up on the Raiders practice squad. But then, he signed with the Patriots in 2025, and under that legendary coaching staff, something just clicked. It all came together, leading to a massive breakout season that put him right back on the league's radar.
So what's the first piece of evidence for that breakout? 7.5 sacks. That was a career high for him in 2025, and it put him firmly in the top 25 among all NFL edge rushers. After years of just flashing that potential, he was finally turning that elite athleticism into real production, finishing plays and getting quarterbacks on the ground. That number alone made him a priority free agent.
But as any good analyst will tell you, sacks don't tell the whole story. This next number, this one's arguably even more important. 18 quarterback hits. This is the stat that shows he wasn't just getting a few cleanup sacks here and there. No, he was consistently generating pressure, living in the backfield, forcing bad throws, and just collapsing the pocket. 18 hits proves he was a constant disruptor, a true menace for opposing offensive lines, down in and down out.
And if there was any doubt left that his breakout was for real, he erased it in the playoffs by adding another 3 sacks. See, he didn't just produce in the regular season, he stepped his game up when the lights were brightest and the stakes were highest. That is a trait that every single GM in this league wants, and it proves he is not afraid of the big moments.
And this table right here, this is where it all comes together. This is the anatomy of the bargain. Clavon Chason signs a 1-year prove-it style deal for just $11 million. Now look at the market. Other top edge rushers, guys with similar or in some cases even worse production last season, are signing these huge multi-year deals that average over $20 million a year. The Commanders basically got top 20 pass rusher production for less than half the going market rate. That is the definition of a high-value, low-risk signing. It's an absolute masterclass in roster building.
The Chason signing is really the perfect example of this front office's philosophy. But it's not totally without risk, right? The big question is whether his 2025 season was a true turning point in his career or just a one-year flash in the pan. Washington is betting big that their coaching staff can unlock that potential consistently. And if they're right, this deal is going to look like an absolute robbery a year from now. Hey, if you're enjoying this deep dive, now would be a great time to hit that subscribe button for more breakdowns from us here at NFL Nexus. And if you could hit that like button, it really helps the channel out. Also, let us know in the comments what you think of the Commanders' moves so far.
And while we've been focused a lot on this massive defensive overhaul, and for good reason, that's where the money's been spent, it has huge implications for the other side of the ball. Building a dominant defense is also a strategy to protect a young offense and a rookie quarterback. It means that offense won't have to get into shootouts every single week. It means they can afford to develop at a much more steady pace. That context is so important as we look at the remaining questions. By the way, if you want to help support the channel, we've actually created some cool coloring books that are perfect for all ages. The link is right there for you in the description. All right, let's get into our final section, unanswered questions and future moves. Because even as decisive and strategic as Adam Peters has been, let's be real, this roster is far from a finished product. There are still some pretty big holes to fill and some key decisions that need to be made, especially on offense as we get closer and closer to the NFL draft.
So what's left on the to-do list? Well, the biggest question on offense is all about Deebo Samuel. He's such a unique weapon, but does his do-it-all style really fit into what will likely be a more structured offensive scheme? Bringing him back is going to cost a lot, and the team has to decide if he's a core piece or if that money is better spent somewhere else. In the backfield, they've already shown their hand. By letting Jeremy McNichols walk and bringing in both Jerome Ford and Rashad White, they're completely hitting the reset button on the running back room. It's a clear shift to a more traditional north-south 1-2 punch.
And in the draft, the mission couldn't be clearer. After losing Igbinovic and needing more talent for Quinn's scheme, they have to aggressively target defensive backs, probably early and often. And all of this, it all leads us to the ultimate question. We've seen the blueprint, right? Clear out the old guard, anchor the defense with a cornerstone like Owe, and find incredible value with high upside guys like Chasen. But is this aggressive, calculated rebuild truly enough to finally change the fortunes of a franchise that has been searching for consistent success for decades? The moves all look smart on paper, but the real test, that begins in September. What's your take? Is this the right path for Washington? I really want to know, so let me know down in the comments below. And if you found this analysis valuable, please make sure you're subscribed to NFL Nexus for more deep dives just like this one. A like on this explainer goes a long way in supporting the channel and helping us grow. And one last thing, if you're looking for another way to show your support, remember we've got those NFL-themed coloring books. They're great for fans of all ages, and the link is right there in the description. Your support helps us keep making these explainers. Thanks so much for watching.